Okay, so we are doing Who's Your Mummy, which is book 6 in the HorrorLand series. We're doing Enter HorrorLand now that we finished the main story. So here's the HorrorLand ticket, as always. The story so far. Several kids received mysterious invitations to be very special guests at Horrorland theme park. They looked forward to a week of scary fun, but the scares quickly became too real. Two girls, Brittany Crosby and Molly Malloy, disappeared. Billy Deep was horrified when his sister Sheena became invisible. Then Sheena disappeared too for a short while. A park guide, a horror named Byron, warned the kids they were all in danger. Byron tried to help them, but then he was dragged away by the other horrors. Why are they all in danger? Where are the two missing girls? The kids are desperate to find Byron to get some answers. Meanwhile, Abby Martin arrives a few days after the others. Abby is eager to put her mummy nightmares behind her and have some fun. She has no idea the terrifying dangers that await her. Abby continues the story. Chapter 1. When Granny V showed me the invitation, I was shocked. Peter and I invited to Horrorland for free? I cried. Are you sure the invitation is for us? It has your name right on it, Abby, Granny V said. You must have won a contest or something. It was 4 months after our adventure in Cranford with the mummies. Granny V was looking young and strong, but Peter and I still had problems. Peter crossed his arms in front of him. I'm not going, he said. No way. Why not? I demanded. It's supposed to be the scariest, most awesome theme park on Earth. I just don't want to, Peter said, whining. I want to hang out with my friends. I knew what the problem was. Peter was afraid. Ever since we returned from Tutan Ra's terrifying house, Peter was frightened by a lot of things. He didn't even want to have water gun fights. Who could blame him? I still dreamed about the chanting mummies at night. In my dreams, I heard their frightening moans and cries. Some nights I woke up with the ugliest ancient voices chanting hair, hair, hair in my ears. I decided that a week in Horrorland might be a chance to escape my nightmares. I tried hard to persuade Peter to come with me, but he was totally stubborn, so I ended up going to Horrorland without him. Did I escape my nightmares? 3 guesses. The first 2 don't count. My first night in Horrorland in the Stagger Inn, I had a terrifying dream. I saw myself back in my room at Tutan Ra's house. I was lying in the canopy bed with the purple curtains. The window was open and I could hear flapping bat wings outside. I sat up and saw a mummy case at the foot of the bed. The case was decorated with carvings of strange birds and cats. A pharaoh's death mask was sculpted on the lid. As I stared, the lid began to move. It made a loud, grinding sound as it slid open. I covered my ears. I didn't want to hear it. I knew I was dreaming. I tried to wake up, tried to pull myself out of the dream, out of that horrid room. But the bed held me down, like a soft trap. I stared as the lid opened all the way. Bandaged arms reached up from inside the case. The wrappings were stained and torn. The mummy stretched, clenching and unclenching its bony fingers. The fingers crackled with each move. The dry sound made my stomach lurch. I shut my eyes. Abby, wake up, I told myself in the dream. Wake up, please. I opened my eyes, hoping to be back in my own room at Granny V's house. But no. Cracking and groaning, the mummy lifted itself from its case. I forced myself out of the bed. My nightshirt was twisted around me. I tried to run to the door. I wanted to escape. But to my horror, I was moving in slow motion. I felt so heavy, as if I weighed 500 pounds. I moved slowly. I seemed to be running in place. The mummy staggered toward me. Its hands were stretched out, as if preparing to wrap me in its arms. The dream was so vivid, so real, I could smell the mummy. It had a sickeningly sweet odor like rotting apples. It groaned with each heavy thudding step. It backed me into a corner. I couldn't escape, couldn't wake up. It reached out, raised one bony, ragged arm, reached up, and I felt its dry, paw-like hand scrape my throat. Oh, sick. It rubbed its fingers over my cheek. I could feel my skin prickle. It's only a dream, I told myself. So why did the touch of the mummy's hand on my face feel so real? I woke up, screaming. I was flat on my back. My whole body trembled. My mouth was dry. I struggled to slow my breathing down to normal. Why could I still feel the mummy's dry touch? Blinking in the dark hotel room, it took me so long to realize that the window curtain was blowing over my face. I sat up, pushed the curtain away. I started to feel a little better. Just a window curtain. No need to panic, Abby. You had a bad dream and a curtain touched your face. No biggie, right? I lowered my feet to the floor. Still feeling shaky, I started to stand up. I lowered my eyes and gasped. Were those footprints on the carpet? Yes, muddy footprints from the door to my bed. And what was that on the floor? I bent and picked it up. I raised it close to see it in the dim light. A strip of stained yellow gauze. I shuddered. Someone had been in my room. Someone was playing a mean joke. Did someone know about my mummy nightmares? I gazed at the muddy footprints. Who would try to scare me like this? Was this supposed to be a part of the HorrorLand fun? I stood up and straightened my nightshirt. I took a deep breath and heard thudding steps out in the hall, and then a pounding knock on my door. The mummy had returned. Chapter 2. Cut it out, Abby, I scolded myself. Don't get crazy. I stepped to the door. Who is it? I called. I'm in the next room, a boy's voice. Are you okay? I heard you scream. I can't believe he heard that. I pulled open the door and stared at a boy about my age. He was big and tall, maybe a foot taller than me. He had short black hair, sort of a bulldog face, big brown eyes. He was barefoot. He had a long t-shirt pulled down over pajama bottoms. I woke up when I heard you scream, he said. I thought... I'm okay, I told him. Guess I was having a nightmare. He said his name was Michael Monroe, and he was a very special guest, too. We started talking, standing in the doorway. He said he was happy to get away from home and come to HorrorLand. He said he had a weird year at school. I had a weird year, too, I said. I had the sudden urge to tell him about the mummies and everything, but I stopped myself. I knew he wouldn't believe it. He'd just think I was crazy. He came in, and we sat down on the little couch by my window. Do kids call you Mike or Michael? I asked. Well, neither. The kids back at home call me Monster. I laughed. They call you Monster because... I guess because I'm such a big dude, and sometimes I lose it, get angry. He blushed. I used to like that nickname, he said, but I had a thing with some real monsters. Now I hate that name. Real monsters? Was he joking? Maybe we both had the same kind of frightening year, I thought. I liked him. He was kind of cute and easy to talk to. Are you into sports? I asked. Wrestling or football? Michael shrugged. Not really. I'm on the wrestling team, but actually I'm kind of a techie. I'm into computers and stuff. He scratched his short spiky hair. What's up with this hotel? He asked. My cell phone won't work, and there's no internet connection. I feel like a prisoner. I just got here yesterday, I said. I didn't try to call anyone. I thought of Granny V. She'd be worried if I didn't call her today. It's like they don't want us to talk to anyone in the outside world, Michael said. Or am I just being paranoid? You're being paranoid, I said. We both laughed. We talked for another hour. I felt like I'd made a new friend. Later, after breakfast, we met up to explore the park. It was only 10 o'clock, but people were starting to pour in. What a beautiful day, I exclaimed. I was feeling good. Last night's nightmare had faded into the past. The sun was still climbing through a clear blue sky. The air was warm and fresh. Kids were laughing and running ahead of their parents, eager to see everything. A long line of people was waiting at the breakfast food cart in the middle of Zombie Plaza. The cart was called Awful Waffle, and the horror working there served waffles shaped like fat cockroaches. Want that with skin rash syrup? He asked a kid. We squeeze it from poison ivy plants. He poured the syrup. I could see little black things swimming in it. Yum. Did you meet any other very special guests? Michael asked. I shook my head. Not yet. I wonder if there are any more of us here, he said. He pointed. Hey, look, some cool rides. Let's do it. I started to follow him. He was so tall and took such long strides. It was hard to keep up. I stopped when I saw a game booth at the edge of the plaza. I uttered a sharp cry. I felt the back of my neck tighten as I stared at it. The mummy's tummy. That's what the game was called, the mummy's tummy. in big black Egyptian-style letters. Huh? My mouth dropped open. I just stood there, gaping at it, and watched kids step up to a giant mummy. The mummy was at least 8 feet tall, standing with its legs wide apart, arms crossed over its chest. Ragged gauze fluttered in the soft morning breeze. When they got to the front of the line, kids reached a hand into the mummy's belly and pulled out prizes. My whole body shuddered. How can this be? I guess Michael saw that I was freaked. Abby, what's up? He asked. What's wrong? I shook my head as I tried to shake away what I was seeing. Nothing, I stammered. I can't explain. First, the mummy footprints and gauze on my floor last night. Now this mummy game. It can't all be a coincidence. Michael grabbed my hand and pulled me up to the giant mummy. He was so strong I couldn't pull back. What's scary about this thing? Michael asked. Abby, you're shaking. Just a chill, I guess, I said. I tried not to stare at the big hole in the mummy's belly. Look, nothing scary about it, Michael said. He made a fist and shoved his hand deep into the opening in the mummy's stomach. He turned to me. See? He said, no problem. But then his expression changed. Hey, he shouted. His eyes bulged. His mouth dropped open. My hand, he cried. Struggling to pull out his hand, Michael shut his eyes and let out a shriek of pain and horror. Chapter 3. I let out a cry and staggered back from the mummy. A grin spread over Michael's face. He slid his hand out. Just goofing, he said. He let out a big laugh. I forced a smile, but I didn't exactly feel like laughing. Why is this thing here? It couldn't have been set up in the middle of the park just to scare me, could it? We walked past the mummy. Wow, it's all like ancient Egypt back here, Michael said, gazing around. I saw a yellow pyramid rising over a patch of sand. A giant sphinx statue guarded an ancient-looking temple. I grabbed Michael's arm and tried to tug him in the other direction. Let's get out of here, I said. I want to see the werewolf petting zoo, and... No, wait, he slid out of my grasp. He pointed. Check it out, an Egyptian roller coaster, and the cars are mummy cases. It looks totally awesome. He jogged over to it. I just wanted to run. I'd seen enough mummy cases to last my whole life, but what could I do? I followed him. The coaster was called the Annihilator. Kids were running to get on the ride. They lay on their backs in the mummy cases, 1 kid per case. Then the cases rolled up the track slowly at first, up a steep climb. At the top, the cars spun around a tall yellow pyramid and whipped down, then up, twisting and turning faster and faster. Wild screams rang out from the cases as they whipped and spun around the giant pyramid. I couldn't see the riders, but it sounded like they were having good, scary fun. Let's do it, Michael said, jumping up and down like a little kid. No, really, I started to protest. I held my ears to shut out the screams of the kids above us, and when I did, I heard the moans and cries of pain in Tutankhamun's real mummies in their cases. I put my hands down. Michael pulled me toward the ride. Before I knew it, he was pushing me into a mummy case. I took a deep breath and slid in. I settled onto my back and grabbed the safety handles at the sides. The tall yellow pyramid cast a deep shadow over me. I heard kids screaming and laughing. I can't do this, I told myself out loud. Sorry. I can do this, I told myself out loud. I can do this ride. I'm not going to be scared for the rest of my life. With a hard rumble, my case started to move. With a hard rumble, my case started to move. The bottom vibrated as I began the slow trip up to the top. My feet were tilted up, my head slanted down. I could feel the blood rushing to my face. I gripped the sides tightly as the mummy case picked up speed. I pictured Michael in the case behind me. He was probably doing it no hands. And then I heard his shout, Abby, how are you doing? I started to answer, but the case whipped around hard, taking my breath away. I shot straight down, head first. The strong wind blew my hair in every direction. The force of the wind was so powerful it was hard to breathe. I was gasping when the case stopped its drop and began to rise again. The case spun hard. My feet rose high now. My head dipped down low. I gripped the side handles. We climbed, higher, higher. I felt the warm sun on my face. The blue sky looked close enough to touch. Higher. And then I let out a sharp cry as my case started to tilt. Was this part of the ride? The mummy case was rolling over. It was turning upside down. No, I uttered a frightened cry. It turned onto its side. It was going to roll over and dump me out. The safety belt. Did I forget to strap it on? There has to be a safety belt. I let go of one side and began frantically searching underneath me. My hand pawed the bottom of the case. No safety belt? Nothing to hold me in. Nothing. With a loud squeak, the car flipped upside down. I could see the ground miles below. I hung there upside down for a second or two, and then my hand slipped off the handles and I started to fall. Chapter 4. I heard a loud snap, and I felt something wrap around my chest and waist. Safety bars. Steel safety bars snapped over me and held me tightly in the case. I was too shocked to laugh or cry out, too shocked to breathe. I heard kids screaming all around me. They just had the scare of their lives too. Slowly, my mummy case tilted right side up. I let out a long sigh. I was gripping the safety bars so hard my hands ached. The case rolled slowly back to the ground. Two tall horrors dressed in green and purple costumes appeared. All the park workers were called horrors. They helped lift me out and stand me back on my feet. How was it? One horror asked. Are you going to ride it again? I don't think so, I said. He looked disappointed. I took a few wobbly steps. My legs felt shaky. My heart was still pounding. A few seconds later, Michael came running over, a big grin on his face. Awesome, right? He cried. I really thought I was going to fall out. Ready to do it again? I squinted at him. You're joking, right? He laughed. Abby, how'd you get to be such a scaredy cat? He didn't wait for my answer. I'll do anything, you know. Guess that's why my friends call me Monster. Well, Monster, I want to go back to Stagger Inn, I said. Get myself together. Maybe have some lunch. He nodded. No problem. Actually, I want to try my laptop again. There's got to be a way to get online. We started walking toward the hotel. The park was jammed with people. The sun beat down. I realized I was sweating. I looked for a cart selling cold drinks. We passed a purple and green cart with flat pieces of meat piled up on the front. On the side of the cart, a sign read, Frosted pig pieces, chocolate, strawberry, and vanilla. Gross. No one was standing in line for those tasty items. Two headless men walked by in gray business suits. They held their heads in front of them in both hands. The heads were singing, Don't worry, be happy. Michael and I both laughed at that. We stopped as a tall horror stepped in front of us. He stuck out his big, paw-like hands to stop us. The horror's short yellow horns curled above the wavy green hair on his head. He had blue eyes under thick brown eyebrows. His whole body seemed to be covered with purple fur. Was it a costume? It had to be. The horrors weren't real, but then why couldn't I see any eye holes in his mask? And how come I couldn't see any wrinkles in the fur? Who are you? He demanded in a tense whisper. His eyes darted all around, as if he was watching out for something or someone. I gazed at the brass name tag pinned to his overall strap. Byron. He leaned over me, casting a shadow over us both. Are you Abby Martin? He turned to Michael. Michael Monroe? Monroe? Yes, I answered. Is something wrong? I thought of Granny V. Was she sick again? Was he delivering a message from her? There's plenty wrong, Byron replied. He glanced all around again. This dude was definitely tense. He shoved something into my hand. Someone wants you to have this, he whispered. Excuse me? I said, what is it? But he had already spun away from us and was trotting through the crowd on the plaza. Well, that was totally disturbing, Michael said. He grabbed my hand. What is that? What did he give you? I gazed at the folded up paper in my hand. Oh, wow, I said. I think it's just an ad. I saw other horrors passing out flyers for the magic show at the haunted theater. Big whoop, Michael muttered. That dude looked so frightened. I thought it was going to be something really scary. He's just a good actor, I said. I unfolded the sheet of paper. I was wrong. It wasn't an ad for the haunted theater. It was a handwritten note in red marker, and it read, "Escape Horrorland. You are in danger." Michael laughed. That horror probably goes around the park passing these out all day. I stared at the fat red letters, red as blood. I don't think so, I said. Michael, he wasn't passing this out at random. He knew our names. Michael rolled his eyes. It's another Horrorland joke, just like that roller coaster back there. We thought we were going to fall out and drop to the ground, but we didn't. They want to scare us. That's the whole fun at Horrorland. I thought hard. I'm not so sure. And then I saw Byron across the plaza. I grabbed Michael's sleeve and pointed. There he is. Come on, let's make him tell us what this note is about. I gripped the note tightly in my right hand, and we started to run. We almost crashed into two women pushing baby strollers. Then we got trapped in the middle of a group of teenagers heading to the games arcade. We were both breathing hard by the time we caught up to him. The tall horror had his back to us. He was straightening the straps on his overalls as he gave directions to a family. Byron, I called. He spun around, and Michael and I both gasped. Chapter 5. The horror blinked at us in surprise. Beneath his horns, he had yellow, spiky hair. He stared at us with one green eye and one brown eye. He wasn't Byron. I squinted at his name tag, Cody. Oh, wow, sorry, I muttered. Thought you were someone else, Michael said. That happens to me a lot, Cody said, but you can always recognize me by the dimples in my cheeks. No one has dimples like these. I made them myself with a power drill. He laughed. I stared hard, but I didn't even see any dimples. I guess it was his little joke. He lowered his weird colored eyes to the sheet of paper. What's that? He asked. He didn't wait for an answer. He grabbed it from my hand and quickly read it. I saw his expression change. His smile faded as he read it again. He squinted at it, studying it for a long time. Then he laughed. You two didn't believe this dumb warning, did you? He asked. Well, I started. It's one of our joke messages, he said. You know, nothing is real at Horrorland. He gave us a wave of his paw. Have fun, guys. Don't get too scared. Ha ha. He started to walk away. Hey, can we have that paper back? Michael called. Cody turned and shrugged his big furry shoulders. I think I'll keep it. You know, pass it on to some other sucker. He laughed again. We horrors pass these things out all day long. Part of our job. Gotta keep it scary, you know. He turned and hurried away. Michael and I stared at each other. Well, that was disturbing, I said. I told you, Michael said. I told you it was just a joke. I groaned. Are you kidding me? Michael, that horror was totally lying. Didn't you hear that phony laugh? Michael shrugged. I believed him, Abby. Why would someone send us a threat like that? We just got here. Why would someone want us out? We were invited. Of course, I didn't have answers to all those questions. Michael and I discussed the warning note all the way back to Stagger Inn. As we walked, we passed groups of kids and dozens of families, all laughing and having fun. None of them seemed afraid. I didn't see any of them carrying handwritten messages in red ink. See you later, I told Michael. I took the dark, creaky elevator up to my room. The elevator was ice cold. Frightening organ music played as it climbed, and I shared the elevator with a skeleton, who was leaning against the back wall holding a suitcase. I stepped into my room and found my cell phone on the nightstand. I picked it up. I started to call Granny V. Silence. No bars. No network here. Weird, I muttered. I set it back down, started to the closet, and spotted something on the desk. A folded-up sheet of white paper. My breath caught in my throat. I hurried over to it and picked it up. My hands trembled as I struggled to unfold it. Another thread. Chapter 6. No, wait. My eyes glanced over the page. There were bats with red eyes all around the margins. Did someone know how much I hated bats? No, it was an invitation. To lunch. I read it carefully. Come meet all the very special guests at the Vampire Cafe. All blood types are welcome. Get the 411 at the meeting afterwards, unless you are feeling drained. There was a little square map on the bottom of the page. I saw that the Vampire Cafe was in the Vampire State building. Sounded like fun, and I was eager to meet the others. Mainly, I was curious. I wanted to ask them why they were picked as very special guests. I glanced at my watch. Almost lunchtime. I hurried into the bathroom to get ready. My long hair had been blown in every direction by that roller coaster ride. It was a tangled mess. I grabbed my hairbrush. Huh? No mirror in the bathroom? That's totally weird, I thought. I moved back into the bedroom and searched around. No dresser mirror, no wall mirror. I pulled open the closets. No mirrors on the closet doors. A hotel room without a single mirror? Shaking my head, I walked to the window. I could see my reflection just a little bit in the glass. I brushed my hair as best I could. Then I changed into a fresh t-shirt and shorts. I grabbed the invitation and headed out the door. I heard flapping bat wings as I stepped into the Vampire Cafe. Abby, don't freak, I told myself. I took a deep breath. The bats aren't real here. Nothing is real. I stepped up to the hostess. The room was so dark I could barely see her. She raised a candle and smiled at me in the flickering light. She was very pale, with black lips and heavy black eyeliner around her eyes. She wore a long black dress and black cape that brushed the floor as she stepped forward. Welcome, she said softly. We keep it very dark because the vampires burn in a bright light, and I hate when that happens. I like your eye makeup, I said. She squinted at me. I don't wear makeup. The flapping bat wings grew louder. They sounded as if they were right overhead. I knew it was just sound effects, but I still felt a chill. The hostess led me to a long table at the back. A waitress was filling everyone's glasses. A waitress was filling everyone's glass from a big pitcher. The drink was red and thick, like blood. We only serve it warm, she told me. More nourishing that way, don't you think? Before I could answer, a boy jumped up and started introducing everyone around the table. It was hard to remember all the names. I sat down next to a pretty girl with straight brown hair named Carly Beth. The boy who greeted me was tall and athletic looking. I think his name was Matt. Next to him, a brother and sister named Billy and Sheena. I dropped into my chair. The waitress filled my glass. I tasted it. Tomato juice. Against the far wall, I saw a tree. Fake, I guessed. And hanging from the branches of the tree were dozens of bats. I hoped they were fakes too. I waved to Michael. He sat at the other end of the long table next to a boy whose name I think was Robbie. Robbie was busily drawing a cartoon on his placemat, and Michael was laughing. Have you all been here a long time? I asked. Has it been awesome? Definitely not awesome, Matt replied. We've had some problems. I was telling Matt what Sabrina and I overheard, Carly Beth said. She leaned closer so everyone could hear her over the noise of the restaurant. We heard these two horrors talking, Carly Beth said. One of them was named Bubba. I don't remember the second one. They didn't know we were there. And what did they say? Robbie asked, putting down his marker. They were talking about us, the very special guests, Carly Beth said. They said it's going to get a lot scarier for us. They didn't mean it as a joke, the girl named Sabrina said. They meant it for real. I glanced around the table. The kids all looked weird in the flickering candlelight, but even in the darkness I could see how troubled they were. Matt shook his head. Byron warned us we weren't safe, he said. We have to keep searching for him. If we can find him, he'll tell us what's really going on here. Hey, I said, did you say Byron? I just saw a horror named Byron. The kids all acted shocked. A few of them gasped. Everyone at the table turned to me. Where did you see him? Sheena asked. Was he okay? Her brother Billy asked. They bombarded me with questions. Do you know where he went? Did he give you a message for us? Did he tell you anything? I was totally confused. Why were they so excited about this horror named Byron? He came up to Michael and me at Zombie Plaza, I said, and he gave Abby a message, Michael interrupted. It said, escape Horrorland. You are in danger. We didn't know if it was a joke or not, I said. We tried to find Byron to explain, but he disappeared in the crowd. That got everyone buzzing. Let's go, Matt said. He stood up. If he's walking around the park, we have to find him. We have to learn the truth. Carly Beth pulled Matt down back into his seat. We can't just run out, she said. There's a meeting after lunch, remember? Maybe we can ask questions, Sabrina said. Maybe we can get some answers at the meeting. Everyone started talking at once. Robbie clinked his spoon against his glass until we grew quiet. I didn't get to tell my story, he said. I saw the 2 missing girls in the arcade. The kids all acted stunned again. Michael and I stared at each other across the table. We were both totally confused. Missing girls? What were they all talking about? They came into the arcade. Really, Robbie said, tapping his marker excitedly on the tabletop. I saw them both. I talked with them. What did they say? Matt asked him. That none of us are safe in Horrorland, Robbie asked. They wanted to take me to another park. They said we'd be safe there. That proves it, Matt cried. We have to get out of here. Wait a minute, Sabrina cried. Everyone turned to her. Robbie hit his head. When Carly Beth and I found him in the arcade, he was totally unconscious. So? Robbie demanded. So maybe you dreamt about seeing Brittany and Molly, Carly Beth said. Right, Sabrina agreed. You were knocked out. How could you see the 2 girls? Whoa, wait. Robbie stood up and reached into his jeans pocket. I didn't dream it. I can prove it. He pulled a golden coin from his pocket and held it up. Check it out, he said. They gave this to me. It says Panic Park on it. Some kind of token from another park. He passed the coin around. Everyone studied it with serious expressions. Again, I glanced across the table at Michael. He and I didn't know what they were talking about. Missing girls, another theme park. I had a million questions. I wanted to ask them. The token came to me. I raised it close to my face to study it. It was shiny and new. I could see the letters PP engraved on one side, and I could see my reflection in the coin. I saw my eye up close. Then I saw that one side of my hair was messed up. Suddenly, I felt a strong pull, as if the coin were pulling me toward it, like a vacuum cleaner. I blinked. What is up with this? I gripped the coin tightly. I tried to pull back, but I could feel myself sliding, moving toward the shiny surface. It was drawing me to it, pulling me into it. I felt so strange, so helpless and light. Chapter 7. A hand grabbed the token away. I felt dizzy, stunned. I turned to see that the waitress had taken it. She shoved it into her black apron pocket. Thanks for the tip, guys, she said. Tips mean a lot to us. Robbie jumped to his feet and stuck out his hand. Hey, give it back, he cried. That wasn't your tip. That token belongs to me. The waitress rolled her eyes. Okay, she grumbled. Don't get your boxers in a twist. She handed back the token. Robbie raised it to his face to examine it in the candlelight. Hey, he shouted. It's not the same token. This one says Horrorland on it. He turned around to protest, but the waitress had disappeared into the kitchen. She made a switch, Robbie cried. She didn't want us to have that token. Let's go get her, Matt declared. He jumped up too, but before anyone could move from the table, 2 horrors stepped up to block our way. One of them was a skinny horror with purple freckles on his green face. His name tag read Bubba. The other was the yellow-haired horror Cody. Hope you all enjoyed your last meal on Earth, Bubba boomed. Chapter 8. He was joking. The 2 horrors led us to a big, dimly lit auditorium for our meeting. The stage was lit by one spotlight. It beamed down on a podium in front of a black curtain. We very special guests filled the front row. The rest of the auditorium was empty, eerie. Organ music played over the speakers. The 2 horrors took up places at the doors. Were they guarding the exits? Michael and I sat at one end of the row. Next to us, Robbie was showing his token to Billy and Sheena. Do you get what they were talking about? Michael asked. Something about 2 girls named Brittany and Molly. And they went missing? Before I could answer, a smiling horror walked across the stage and stepped into the spotlight. He was very thin and frail looking. He had pale green skin, a bald head under his horns, and squinted down at us through square-framed glasses. My name is Ned, he said in a squeaky old man's voice. We're so happy to have you all in our park. We invited you as very special guests for a reason. We want you to go home and tell all your friends how much good, scary fun you had at Horrorland, and tell them to come visit us too. But someone is really trying to scare us, Matt shouted from his seat. Ned's smile grew even wider. All in good fun, he said. Matt didn't give up. We have a lot of questions for you, he said. Ned nodded. I'll be happy to answer your questions, he squeaked. But first, I have a special gift for each of you, a little memento of your stay with us. Matt groaned. This dude won't answer anything, he muttered. Here to give you your gifts, Ned said, is the HorrorLand who had the great idea to invite you all here to the park. And it was his idea to have this meeting today. He waved to the side of the stage. Please come here and hand out the gifts. A tall horror with short yellow horns, green hair, and purple fur came striding out, carrying a package. Byron. I recognized him instantly, the horror who gave me the warning message. The other kids were all muttering excitedly. We've been looking everywhere for him, I heard Sheena whisper, and here he is. Byron, where were you? Matt shouted. Ned stood next to Byron, a smile pasted on his face. Byron pretended he didn't hear Matt's question. He held up the package. I have special HorrorLand tokens for each of you, he said. I think you will want to carry them with you everywhere. It will show the horrors around the park that you are very special guests, Ned said. No more standing in line. Just show your token and you go right in. And food is free at all our restaurants, Byron added. Just show your special token. Byron will call you up one by one to receive your gift, Ned announced. Byron called me up first. I took the coin from him and went back to my seat. When I looked at it, I had a shock. The token had a pyramid on it. Huh? My mouth dropped open. Why did I get an Egyptian one? Do they know about the mummies in my uncle's village? Wait, did all the kids get pyramid tokens? No. Matt's token had a weird blob on it. Carly Beth's had an ugly Halloween mask. Robbie's had a cartoon superhero. Everyone seemed shocked and upset. Did the other kids have something horrifying happen to them too? Is that what they see on their coins? We have a lot of questions, Matt shouted up to the stage. But Ned turned and walked off quickly. Byron started to follow him. But then he turned back to us, and in a loud whisper he said, Inside the bat barn, 4 o'clock sharp. Chapter 9. I followed the other kids out into the afternoon sunlight. The park was crowded with people having fun. Across from us, a horror in a clown suit was making balloon animals for little kids. The balloon animals all looked like rats. We gathered under the shade of a big tree, and we all started talking at once. Something really scary happened to me, I said, with real mummies. And look at my token. I held it up so they could see the pyramid on it. The others chimed in. Their tokens matched what happened to them during the year. It's totally disturbing, Billy said. How could our worst nightmares follow us here? Michael had been quiet. I saw him studying his token intently. Suddenly, he let out a cry. Look at this. We all turned and watched him pull a tiny chip from his token. I've seen this before. It's a tracking device, Michael said. I bet they want to spy on us and track our every move. We've got to lose these, Robbie said, right now. But wait, Carly Beth said, you say you trust this Byron guy, right? He's on our side. So if these really are tracking chips, they are a good idea. Yes, we should keep them if Byron wants us to have them, Sabrina said. No way, Matt declared. Don't you see? They forced Byron to give us these things. That's why he wants to meet us later. I know about this electronic spying stuff, Michael said. No one's going to track me. I'll show you what to do with these coins. He walked over to a red-headed kid who was slurping an ice cream cone with his mom. He handed the coin to the kid. It makes you a special visitor, he said. You can use it to get free food and stuff. Cool, thanks, the kid exclaimed. He took the coin and showed it off to his mom. So that's what we did. We all gave our coins away to passing kids. Everyone except Carly Beth and Sabrina, that is. They kept theirs. It was almost 4 o'clock. We hurried across the park to the bat barn. A fat purple horror greeted us at the entrance. He handed us all wide-brimmed hats. It might keep the bats out of your hair, he said. I realized I was trembling. I wished I didn't have to go into the bat barn. We started into the long, dark building. Chittering bat cries rang out above our heads. I could see bats hanging upside down from the low rafters. I looked away and saw a piece of paper on the floor. I picked it up and held it close to my eyes. It was hard to read in the little bit of light that crept into the barn. Michael stepped up beside me, and I showed it to him. It looks like a page from an amusement park guide, I said. We both stared at it. It showed kids in an old-fashioned hall of mirrors. The headline read, "Welcome to the Mirror Mansion. Reflect on where it can take you." We passed it around. "Byron must have left this for us," Billy said. "It has to be some kind of clue, like the other pages we found." His sister Sheena started to say something, but instead a scream burst from her mouth, and seconds later we all began to scream as the bat attack began. Bats swooped down on us, dozens of them, screeching and whistling, flapping furiously. I tugged the hat down low on my head and gripped the brim, but I felt bat claws rake my shoulders, my back. "They're real," I shrieked. "They're not fakes." Where's Byron?" someone cried over the screeching of the clawing, biting bats. "We're all alone here." I screamed in horror, the last words from my mouth as the bats tore at my hair, my clothes, my face. To be continued in Goosebumps Horrorland, My Friends Call Me Monster. Fear File number 6. Each Egyptian symbol equals 1 letter. It clearly says Panic Park. I'm just letting y'all know. The top 10 scariest rides in Horrorland. Number 10, Hungry Croc's Piggyback Ride. They're lean, green, and extremely mean. Number 9, Bottomless Canoe Ride. Looking for safety? Don't hold your breath. Number 8, Landmine Maze. Watch your step. Victory will be yours, or mine. Number 7, Coffin Cruise. Why not go with the flow? Lie back and relax forever. Find the rest at www.escapehorrorland.com. Signed, Lizzie. So that's that message. And then this advertisement. Map number 6. Looks like it's got the Annihilator on it along with the other Egyptian themed attractions at the park. And map 12 belongs here. And map 10 belongs down here. So there's that. So this book is your ticket to www.enterhorrorland.com. Checklist number 6. The newest Horrorland roller coaster isn't scary enough. Can you fix it? But wait, the ride's controls are hidden under the pyramids. Not even the horrors will go there. Will you? Avoid the creepy Sphinx statues and the terror tombs, and don't wake the mummies. Carefully tinker with the circuit box to restart the ride so it meets all fright restrictions. Uh-oh, you didn't just fix the coaster, you awakened the daddy of all mummies, King Tutan-Ra. Yeah, that's the checklist. There. And we are done with book 6.